problem, but in the Hualapai Mountains outside of Kingman, feeding wildlife is a serious concern.
You come up here in the Hualapais and you're in the pines and you're surrounded by wildlife just within 15 minutes drive time of Kingman. And there's a small community that lives up here as well. So people have homes up here, they have summer homes. Some people live here year-round, but we get a lot of visitors up here as well. People come up here all the time, in fact, to view elk and deer close and personal. The reason those animals are coming into this area, and there seems to be so many of them, is because people are feeding them. We have the beautiful Hualapai Mountains, but it's kind of an ugly issue that goes on here.
It goes on everywhere, but in Maricopa and Pima counties, it's illegal to feed wildlife except for birds and squirrels. For the rest of Arizona, feeding wildlife is not against the law.
Granted, it's not illegal in Mojave County, but it's not good for the animal in the long run. Again, it's not part of their natural diet. There are actually quite a few people in this community that put out hay bales, and they put out big troughs of water to bring the elk into their yard. And you'll see there'll be 20 elk bedded down in their yard.
They just kind of hang out with little motivation to roam and forage like wild animals normally do. And when wildlife get used to people, they're more likely to get into trouble. Twice in 2 weeks, Game and Fish had to tranquilize elk to remove trash can lids stuck around their necks.
You know, they're going in there now for people food.
Zen Makarsky says a wildlife manager who used to work in this area once showed him proof that elk were developing a taste for junk food.
So she rolls down her window, and there's 12. In my recollection, 10 to 12 elk bedded down. I mean, completely lying on the ground. And she pulls out a bag of chips, shakes them up and down, and every single elk there stood up and walked towards us.
Animals can figure things out. They don't need us to put hay and things like that, pellets in their yard for them.
You know, that's what I hear a lot. You know, I have to feed them, they need my help, they need this. You know, and I just like to say, stop it. You know, this is not an act of selflessness, it's an act of selfishness. This is not about helping wildlife, this is about wanting to see wildlife. And we've had many, many cases where that act of wanting to see wildlife has led in horrible, disastrous results for the animals.
Makarsky is the Public Information Officer for the Game and Fish Regional Office in Kingman. He's constantly spreading the word that feeding wildlife is bad news for both animals and people.
Well, the bottom line for me is that humans and wildlife just don't interact real well together. You bring them in and they're facing all kinds of dangers when we draw them into the community. People are not doing them a favor.
He says it raises their risk of being hit by a car. Plus, an artificially high concentration of animals makes it easier to spread disease, and Makarsky says it's like ringing the dinner bell for predators.
You're creating potential type of smorgasbord for a predatory animal.
You know, when these mountain lions are coming in here and feeding on the deer and the elk that are within this community, then you've got a dangerous predator within the community.
And when predators get used to people, they often become a risk to public safety.
You know, when we have an animal like a bear or a mountain lion that has become a danger to society and we have to remove that animal from the wild, we're the ones as wildlife managers that have to dispatch that animal. And we do it as humanely as possible, of course, but there's nothing worse than taking an otherwise healthy animal and having to put it down. We wouldn't have had to if people hadn't been feeding those animals and bringing them into their communities. We would never have had to put those animals down.
People love wild animals, but sometimes they love them to death. That familiar phrase, a fed bear is a dead bear, is more than just a cute saying. It's a serious reminder that the actions people take can lead to terrible consequences for wildlife.
And unfortunately, it seems to be a message we have to keep constantly repeating because unfortunately, sometimes they don't listen, and we tend to see the same issues over and over again.
Well, that's our show for tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. For more information, visit our website at azgfd.gov. For all the fine folks at Arizona Game and Fish, I'm Jim Paxson. We'll see you next time.
The ADOT Enforcement and Compliance Division has implemented technology into this rest area so that we can monitor and screen commercial vehicles, especially the intrastate drivers. In the past, we have had to haul our scales around, set up all this equipment. Now we're going to be able to just plug into the system. There's a weigh-in motion out there. It's going to weigh the truck. The DOT reader is going to read the TOT number on the truck and then the plate number as well. It's going to pop up on a computer screen. It's going to let us know if there's an alert or a safety issue where the truck needs to be looked at. And then with the message board, we'll be able to pull that truck in off of the interstate to screen more closely. When they enter the rest area, we have static scales that are already placed in ground. We will get an accurate weight and see if there's any action that needs to be taken, and then we can go from there.
The primary focus is to use the technology on commercial vehicles to determine the approximate weight, registration, permit, and also the records will give us the safety standards that are on file. Trucks that are overweight will do more damage to the pavement surface. We make sure that they're properly permitted and that they pay the appropriate user highway fees, which are used to do the maintenance and repair of the roadway surface.
The technology is going to be put in place at 3 locations. I-19 at the Canoa Rest Area, the Sackatone Rest Area on I-10, and then it'll be here at McGuireville on I-17. Those locations were picked because of the high volume of truck traffic that comes through the area.
ADOT wants to make it clear that the cameras are not tied to any type of speed measurement. They cannot determine any speed of vehicle, and it will not be used in any other function other than for the commercial vehicle inspection.
Just going to do a level 2 inspection on you, check your paperwork, check out the truck real quick.
The system is not only going to benefit us, it's going to benefit the motorists, it's going to benefit the trucking companies, because by screening these vehicles as they come through, we're going to be able to sort out the vehicles that are in compliance and let them continue down the highway, and then the ones that are questionable, we're going to bring in and we're going to take a closer look at them.
The project is the I-40 Walnut Canyon traffic interchange to the Twin Arrows traffic interchange repaving job. The special thing about this project is the fact that for the first time on an ADOT job, we're using intelligent compaction technology. And that is technology that puts sensors on the rollers, on the compactors, to monitor their position, as well as heat sensors so that the operator of the roller can tell what the temperature of the asphalt surface is.
And it also keeps track of the number of roller passes as the operators are rolling and compacting the material. So if they start to see some anomalies on their monitor while they're rolling and compacting the material, they may be able to identify an issue and go back in and actually fix it and solve the problem. Compaction is one of the vital characteristics of pavement. If we don't have enough compaction, the material simply won't be dense enough. And what that means is it's more porous. So it's susceptible to moisture, the environment, and that includes the air, which means it'll age faster. If we overcompact it, then the problem we see often is rutting, and that's something we also want to avoid. So we have really a sweet spot that our specifications try to target. The intent with the intelligent compaction is that by creating a better product up front, something that is more durable and longer lasting, we'll not need to put forth the maintenance dollars and the time and the effort to maintain potholes and seal cracks. So we'll get longer lasting life and better performance and spend less money in the long run.
You can see the surge in roundabouts right now for 2 reasons. 1, community acceptance, and number 2, they're really the most efficient and safe way to build an intersection.
Roundabouts. More and more of them are popping up around Arizona. It's been that way for the last decade or so. To date, ADOT has just shy of 40 roundabouts on our highway system, with another 22 in the works by 2018.
All roundabouts can be sized to meet the needs of the community, which includes automobiles, trucks, pedestrians, bicyclists, and may include single-lane or multi-lane roundabouts.
For some, the idea of driving through a roundabout can be a little intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. Vehicles generally move in a slow flow from left to right, making travel through these intersections easier and safer. In fact, roundabouts can actually increase traffic flow and capacity.
Typically at a roundabout, you have all directions with the ability to keep moving, versus at a signal, you're going to have at least half of the intersection stopped waiting for the other directions to go. That results in a roundabout providing at least 50% less delay than a traditional signalized intersection.
At a standard signalized intersection, there are 4 different directions of travel all vying for the same space. Not so in a roundabout. Because of their configuration, it's nearly impossible to have a head-on or T-bone collision when using a roundabout.
50% of our crashes occur at signalized intersections. One of the advantages to roundabouts is the fatality rate goes down by 90%. You don't have T-bone crashes that you have with a conventional intersection.
The statistics speak for themselves. According to the Federal Highway Safety Administration, around 7,000 people are killed each year in intersection-related crashes. That's almost 20 a day. And nearly 1 million people are injured each year in intersection-related crashes. And there are other advantages to roundabouts. Roundabouts are more fuel efficient because there's no stopping and starting. They're more quiet, they require less electricity, and they are safer for pedestrians and bicyclists.
History has shown that 75% of the communities that roundabouts are installed in, people support the roundabouts once they're in. The traffic specialists throughout the country and engineers are looking for a better mousetrap in terms of intersections. Modern roundabouts are really one of the great tools that we have to reduce serious injuries and fatalities at intersections.
If you understand how a roundabout works for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians, your travel through these intersections will be easier and safer. Keep in mind, roundabout traffic moves in a slow, continuous flow from left to right. Before you enter a roundabout, it is important to remember these key tips. Slow down, look left, proceed with caution. As you approach a roundabout, keep in mind where you are going and choose the correct lane to accommodate your travel. In general, if you're planning to turn right, choose the right-hand lane when entering the roundabout. For all other options, such as traveling straight, turning to the left, or even completing a U-turn, any lane can be used. If you miss your turn, don't worry. All you need to do is simply travel around the center once more, and your exit will become available again. If an emergency vehicle enters the roundabout, simply exit the roundabout when you can and pull over to the right immediately. Don't stop while in the roundabout. You don't want to block the emergency responders. The modern roundabout will accommodate large transport vehicles, livestock carriers, and trailers. It has a truck apron near the center of the roundabout. Motorists must yield the right-of-way and wait for pedestrians and bicyclists using the roundabout crosswalks. If bicyclists use the roundabout itself, they must obey the same rules as vehicular traffic for yielding and merging. Vehicles must allow enough space for cyclists before entering the roundabout.
And you just want me to take it up and down around the yard for a little bit?
We have done most of our training in-house.
What I want you to do is just go out here and drive around.
But I think we realized we need to bring ourselves up to the standard that industry applies. Empire Cat is a worldwide company. They've been doing this for many years. And so why wouldn't we want to go to the people that do it full time?
I want you to do a little crab steering.
Each module, whether it's classroom training,
your blade now is going to go like this,
or simulator training, or live machine training, are all the same steps. We're just using redundant methods to try to reinforce.
You want to roll that thing forward just a little bit?
The classroom provides very good refresher with safety, with maintenance procedures on the equipment and operational procedures. The simulator helps us provide a base training to where we can become familiar with the controls and the functions of the piece of equipment. It helps us get comfortable with the equipment before we actually get on it. While the simulator in the actual classroom is very valuable, there's no substitute for actually getting the on-the-job training on the equipment.
And that immersion seems to be the magic mix to drive home the skills and the talent that they need to drive this equipment.
The knowledge I've gained here, I will take back to the district, and I'm going to share the information. You know, some of the techniques, the new techniques I learned here.
This is definitely helping us save dollars, save equipment costs. We're learning how to save wear on tires. We're not putting so much fuel through the equipment because now we're operating it more efficiently.
So we need to raise the seat up a little.
The good thing about Empire CAT is they have a lot of metrics that shows this training pays off.
This one, right?
Not only in safety, but better performance of the equipment and more productivity.
It's going to help to develop a very efficient workforce. We're going to be able to provide a better service to the public with what we do. So I'm pretty excited about this whole program.
We're the first DOT to do this, and I think it's a win-win situation for us, the public, and it's great. Great package.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
My motorcycle experience started when I was a young man. I got married when we had children. I stopped riding motorcycles, and so that left me with diminished skills. The motorcycle training program taught me how to ride a motorcycle correctly and safely. It also taught me skills that I never knew before. Actually, I thought I was a really good rider, and there were a lot of things I did that I didn't realize were unsafe. The inexperienced rider should take the training program. They can learn the right habits the first time.
I took a class, an introductory class, on how to ride motorcycles to see if I was even interested. Having never been on a motorcycle before, I wanted to see if it was really for me. One of the advantages of taking a driving training course for motorcycles is you take the driving test, you go through all the different maneuvers you would at MVD. You also take the written test that you would do at MVD. Only by taking it in class, that you get a piece of paper once you pass, and you just take that piece of paper down to MVD, and they actually give you your driver's license endorsement.
Motor vehicle only offers for you to take the written and skills tests, but we don't offer any type of training. Motorcycle Safety Foundation, however, does offer all types of training for all riders. I have people who've been riding for years who took the training course a long time ago but let their endorsement drop, and they can't perform the basic skills out here. If you're going to take up riding and you're a friend of mine, I'm going to advise that you take the safety training course, absolutely. They teach you skills that you're not going to get just learning to ride on your own.
Now, I feel like I can really hold my own. I've got over 18,000 miles on my bike, and we've totally enjoyed it.
The Oak Creek Bank Protection Project was triggered again by the fire we had last summer. It was a bank protection that was put in the 80s, and what we're going to do is go in and stabilize what's there and then build onto it so it's at a higher level all the way up to actually the highway. We're worried about the creek coming up, rising from heavy rainfall that comes in through the fire area to such a level that it may wash out the roadway itself.
This project has a lot of environmental considerations. As you can see here, we're right next to the Oak Creek, one of the few perennial waterways within Arizona. So you don't want to be contributing any detrimental activities that deter that water quality. Right now we are flagging the wetland boundaries and the ordinary high water mark. The pink line is wetland, so anything below that pink line we're telling the contractor, don't go into that area, don't impact it. Additionally, there's another white line, and that points out where the ordinary high water mark is for the project. So any potential staging or stockpiling that the contractor may want to do, they would have to do it above that ordinary high water mark line, especially when you have imminent rain events. Also on this project, we have a few endangered species, the Mexican spotted owl, which has some breeding areas nearby, and the narrow-headed garter snake. We're at one of the last spots in the state for habitat for this threatened snake. We tried to exclude snakes from the area when they were estivating, which is like hibernating, going under the ground, to try to minimize any potential impacts. We're at the step now where construction's just getting ready to get going, and so we have just removed the exclusion area. We're going to have biological monitors on site when there's work activities going on. These individuals are permitted by the Fish and Wildlife Service to actually handle the snakes. If something's encountered on the project, the biological monitors will inform the construction staff to hold their work. If the snake's moving off on its own, we're going to let it move off on its own. If there's imminent harm, we can release them further off-site to have no impacts on the species. Here at ADOT, we're here to improve roadways for the traveling public, and so, you can find a good equilibrium between, doing that and maintaining environment.
I'm Lisa Anderson, and I'm the District Environmental Coordinator here at ADOT in the Phoenix District. The environmental coordinators assist the maintenance people and, in some cases, the construction people to make sure that we're not violating any laws like the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, or the Endangered Species Act. We also comply with the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which means we try to focus a lot of our maintenance activities in our canals and basins in the winter months. And that means basically if we move in to do work, birds can fly away, there's no harm to any eggs or nests or young birds. My primary focus of my job can range from air quality to water quality, and this is just kind of a piece of that, but it's probably the most enjoyable thing. This is the Southeast Valley Regional Drainage System, Severance Basin. It's basically a containment system for the freeways after stormwater, and then we also collect non-stormwater, and that's basically nuisance flows that we have, irrigation water. And anytime you have irrigation water, you've got seeds that are present in the soil that are carried in here by the wind and by birds, and you've got this excellent vegetation, cattails for red-winged blackbirds. You've got mallard ducks, you've got egrets, you've got